Hello, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everybody. Welcome. Today we are talking about why we try to control others. It is a very common way that we will show up in our relationships, and we're going to talk about why we tend to do that. But let me go ahead and pin the comment on Instagram. If you are joining me in replay, you can go ahead and let me know below in the chat. But hello and happy Thursday to everyone. I hope, woohoo! I hope that you had a wonderful week, and I am so happy to be with y'all today. So if you joined a few seconds after, I'm talking about why we try to control people in all of our relationships. For those of us, some of us may be the type who are a little bit more free-flowing. You're better at surrendering. You're better at just letting people show up the way that they want to show up without personalizing what they do, what they say, what they don't do, what they don't say. And if that is you, shout out to you, and shout out to either secure attachment, or you having a personality type that is not triggered by what other people do and say. But for many folks who either have an anxious attachment or even avoidant attachment, we try very hard to try to control and manipulate how people show up for us in our lives. And so I'm going to break down the reasons why. As always, please let me know if there's anything that I'm sharing today that you relate to, that you're like, that's me. If you have a question about anything that I'm sharing, if you have a different experience, whatever comes up for you, feel free to share it in the comments, okay? For those of you who join me for the first time, my name is Sheena Lachey. I'm the founder of Black Girls Heal, and I help women heal from the symptoms of love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation, and the trauma that causes it to make way for healthy love in their lives. I am a therapist by trade, but I work full-time as a coach via our podcast, via my programs, to help women break this cycle and give y'all real practical solutions to come out of it. Because as someone who has been on both sides of the chair, as a therapist, as a therapy client, as a coach, and as a coaching client, I already know that, or I know just from experience, that processing it and looking at the trauma and looking at like where it comes from is so beautiful and so vital for, getting things out. Like even this week, in my session, I go to a somatic experiencer right now for my therapy to help like clear out the ways that trauma has been stored in my body. And I had like a deep, gut-wrenching soul cry, and it was wonderful. And like it's exactly what I needed in that moment. And I have benefited so much from when I've had coaches and other experts and people who've gone before me tell me, okay, this is what you're dealing with, do this. And it helped me so much. So that is what I aim to do for y'all here today. Let me see. I see y'all are saying things already. Love this. I already know this is about to hit home. Well, great. I hope that it does. Okay, so, I just had it up. I had my little notes up. Did I close my window? Let's see. Hold on, y'all. I think I closed my window for myself. Yeah, let me reopen it. I had a whole list of notes for us to go with today. While I'm doing that, why do y'all think that we try to control others? What would be your guess? Or what have you seen from your experience? Go ahead and put that in the chat for me. Why is it that you or other people that you know in the past or currently may try to control others? What is the benefit? What is the cost? What's up, y'all, who are just joining us? I know that there's a delay in typing, so I'm going to let y'all type that out. A way to maintain safety, yep, because they feel out of control in themselves. So the people that we're trying to control are out of control, so we're trying to help them. Is that what you're saying? Let's see. Because makes them feel a sense of being wanted. If we control others, then we can feel more wanted. Okay. I know I do it because I believe if people did things as I said to, things would go smoothly. You know what? I probably laughed so hard because I also believe I know how it's supposed to be, and it would be so much easier if you would just get it together. If you would just get it together, listen, I have both of our interests in mind. I know exactly what you want, and I know exactly what I want. Let's stop making this hard. I have the most easiest, most efficient way for us to both get our physical, emotional, financial, whatever needs met. So I absolutely, I absolutely can relate to that. Um, they can't control their own lives, so they distract themselves by trying to control others. Ooh, that's real deep. Ooh, that's a good one. That's very deep. To help that person from falling off a cliff, the cliff being their own lives. Yep, helping the other person. A lot of y'all agree with the person who said that they try to help others. Yeah, this is all so good. Um, so yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and jump on in. So a few of these are things that y'all have already listed, but we'll probably go back to some of the things that y'all have shared. So the reasons why we try to control other people. The first one, I'm going to skip some of the things that y'all said, is we may have observed that these types of power dynamics at home when we were younger. We may have observed these types of power dynamics and what it looks like to be in control when we were younger. So I know for me, I came from a household where there was a very dominant figure who, the way that they wanted things to be done, they were very loud about it and they were very in charge about it. And actually, I'll just say it was my mom. My mom was very much someone who what she said went, and could have been even very abrasive about it and very much in control. Now, me as someone who, the stereotype of being a firstborn, for a lot of firstborn children, for the most part, the stereotype is that we tend to be very highly independent, that we pretty much know what we want, that we like to be in charge ourselves. So that was, even though she was very much in that dominant type of control energy, I was able to kind of take my power back. And I remember being, and I tell this story, I remember being either 5 or 6, so either kindergarten or first grade. And I remember making a vow saying, I am not going to need anything and I'm going to make sure that I take care of myself. How deep is that? And I share that just because I know whenever I talk about mother trauma and family trauma and stuff like that, a lot of people can relate. And so this might not be your story, but I know for sure for me, I had a very dominant mother. I'm blessed enough to where before she passed, though, we had a very soft and sweet relationship. That was like, it's very good to have that experience. But growing up, it was very hard. So in that household, I watched someone be very much. People are going to say do what I want them to do. You're going to act the way I want you to act. If not, there's going to be consequences, or I'm going to do it on my own. And I learned how to do that, be that person myself. Also, being in control. So sometimes we can think of control as being that more abrasive, kind of like aggressive energy that I just said. And sometimes being controlling looks like caretaking. Sometimes being controlling means I know what you want and what you need better than you do. So I'm going to go ahead of you and I'm going to provide these things for you. I'm going to try to steer you to go in these directions, because I know what you need better than what you need, than you know what you need. And so we eliminate and we cut off the ability for other people to find their own identity, for them to learn how to take care of themselves, for them to fail and learn how to recover, which is a basic life skill. It is a basic life skill that starts from very early for those of us who were able to walk as children, for you to fall over as a child and pick yourself up and figure out balance, for you to figure out how to move your legs, for you to figure out, okay, when I fall down, I still have the power to get up. And some of us, if we grew up in settings with people, the way that they were controlling was to overhelp and be enmeshed with us, and to be very intrusive with us, we learn how to do that for other people. And it's very interesting. Sometimes we don't realize that we have started to repeat that same pattern. For anyone else who's had intrusive caregivers or intrusive people in their past, people who try to dominate or have power or have very strong opinions, have you ever woken up and realized, oh, wow, I'm just like my dad? I'm just like my granny. I'm just like my mom. I'm just like this person with different people in your lives. Examples of these people can be your own children. It could be if you are in a job or a setting where you have some type of power and control. So whether or not you're the boss and you find yourself helping and micromanaging your subordinates and the people on your team. If you're a teacher and you're helping and being very intrusive with your students and not allowing them to fail and fail upwards. If you are in friendships with people, a lot of times if you tend to be, if your controlling goes through the caretaking avenue, you can tend to gravitate towards people who always have issues, emotional issues, financial issues, physical issues, whatever, to where you can come in and rescue them. And they allow you to come in and rescue them. And so you're able, it's interesting. Some other people said it before when I was asking for reasons why we control. Controlling is such a very common defense mechanism because it's a way for us to feel safe. When I have no other control in my life, when my life feels very out of control, what are the things that I can make sure that when I put my hands in, it's going to work out the way that I want to? And sometimes it's related to our own personal life, and sometimes it's related to the lives of other people. Let me know if that's making sense so far before I keep going. We're talking about why we try to control people, y'all. For those of you who are joining us a little bit later, and I just dropped the first point that a lot of times we can try to control is because we watch other people do it. So we watch other people be very independent, controlling in their ways. I talked about how control can also look like you're trying to help people, and you don't know how to let other people live their life. And a lot of your value comes from, or a lot of your purpose comes from, um, what you feel like is helping other people. Okay, so I see some hearts, so I see that that relates. Okay, the second point, if you're ready for the second point, put a 2 in the chat for me. Put a two or a heart in the chat. I'm going to take a drink. Thank you, Ty, for letting me know that that relates. All relatable makes sense. Oh, wow, is that how late the delay is? Oops. Guess I'm going to be talking to myself for about 15 seconds before it catches up. For some of y'all. All right, thank you for the 2s, y'all. The second reason why we may try to control people, this list is not exhaustive. I only have 3, and y'all shared some great ones earlier. But the second reason we may try to control people is we may want to try to avoid us getting hurt. We might try to control other people because we're trying to avoid getting hurt. So if I'm in a relationship with someone and I don't either trust their intentions, I'm feeling very anxious attachment, I'm in my love addiction, I'm in my whatever, and I'm anticipating rejection, or they're actually doing things that are rejecting and very abandoning. I may try to control the situation by getting them to come back to me, or to stop them from leaving me, or to stop them from changing their mind about me. So some controlling tactics that I see that love addicts do is one is trying to become the person's dream girl or dream person or dream partner, and trying to anticipate what they need instead of anticipating what the person needs. Um, a lot of times I will see for some folks when they're very anxious is they try to, in them anticipating their needs, the other person's needs. I'm trying to think of examples that aren't like too extreme, but the control can be very extreme. So whether or not it's trying to make yourself irreplaceable in their life, so becoming their only source for emotional care, becoming someone who's there financially to help pull them out of troubled water, instead of letting them do it on their own. Trying to think about how to not share some very specific examples from folks that kind of get off the path because I want to stay on track for this. But love addicts will really do a lot to try to show the person you need me, or if we aren't together, then things aren't going to go well for either one of us. So on the other side of that, in addition to trying to making yourself irreplaceable to someone, sometimes you might use your emotions to try to guilt or shame someone and stop them from having what might be their own appropriate boundaries towards you. So this might be fake crying or exaggerated crying. This may be trying to guilt someone for if they want to exit a relationship and trying to convince them to stay with you. Um, this could be trying to tell people what to say and how to show up and how to act in order to give you the love that you want. I remember I had one partner that was super thoughtful and super loving, but the way that my anxiety and my anxiousness showed up, it would always circumvent ways for him to show up for me. So I had such a low self worth and lack of belief that someone would give me what I needed. And I was so used to having to come out and tell people what I want and also defend myself whenever I would ask for things and people might guilt me or try to guilt me or make me feel as if I was asking for too much. Those were the types of relationships and connections that I had before, or at least the ones that I paid attention to. Because a lot of times when you look back at your trauma and your history, you can realize, there were so many instances that I had these really shitty experiences, but I also had some really great people and great opportunities for love that was just really hard for me to see because of what I chose to focus on and what felt the most um, um, what grabbed my attention more than others. But anyways, I was dating this person who was very like thoughtful and considerate, but I would kind of jump in and be like, well, you haven't done this or you haven't done that, or what about this? And like say it was for flowers, and he would and I would say something about how you haven't done that, and I would actually have a flower delivery that was literally on the way to me. I would be like, we haven't really gone on a date or something like that. And then he would show me that he had reservations for tickets for us to go someplace. Like I was so much in my like, I need to make sure that I control how this relationship goes and how it shows up, that I didn't allow someone to just show up and be their best selves. And so sometimes we can control that way outside of our own fear of not getting our needs met. Okay. Let me know if that makes sense so far. And I think another one, while I'm waiting for y'all to tell me if that makes sense, is sometimes a way that we can control to make sure that we don't get hurt is to kind of keep our knees close to our chest. So for me, sometimes I would be very vocal about what I needed from people and to ask them for what I wanted. And sometimes I would kind of watch and see what they were going to do and what they were not going to do, even if they were folks that told me that they wanted to hear it, because it's kind of like a test. It was kind of like, let me see if you can actually show up for me, but I wasn't going to communicate what it is what I needed from them. Right. And no one is a mind reader, y'all. Even people who are super thoughtful and giving and generous, they still need to know you. They still need to know, what are your likes? What are your dislikes? What are your allergies? Are you inside person? Are you outside person? Are you someone who wants to go out and do a lot of things, or do you want to stay home? How do you show up in your feelings and your emotions? If you're not communicating to people what you need and who you are, people cannot show up for you. People cannot love you in the way that you need. And then you will go and penalize people for not reading your mind. And then when you do tell them what it is that you want, if you're very much in your anxious attachment or even avoidant attachment, you can either be resentful of the fact that you had to say something, be distrustful of the fact that they'll even show up for you. You may nitpick what they even do for you because it's not enough. But the reason it's not enough is not because they're not doing what you ask, but romantic relationships especially, but also like friendships and other relationships, like these are all things that add to our lives, but they're not going to fix our own internal wounds. So I'm a big proponent of healing and community and finding really great, secure relationships. But you can be around the most secure, healthy, loving people. But if you think you're not good enough, and if you think you're someone who's a burden, and if you think that your needs aren't that important, and if you think your voice is too much and that you get in the way or whatever it may be, that is going to infiltrate your relationships with them. Not because that's how they see you, but that's how you see yourself. And so it's going to be really hard for you to let your light shine, for you to be seen, for you to take up space. And so that's something for you to really keep in mind. Okay. So someone said, yes, that makes sense. Okay, so then I'm going to go to the third point, and y'all let me know if y'all have any questions, thoughts, or additions. And if not, we'll go ahead and end for today. So the third reason why we might try to control people, actually, this one is kind of, um, this one is kind of related to another one that I said. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the words that the person said earlier because I don't want to riff on that one again, because I think I might repeat some of the things that I said in the first one. Um, they can't control their own lives, so they distract themselves by trying to control others. Oh, I guess I already did kind of talk about that, right? Like your life is so out of control, so sometimes it's easier to focus on other people instead of focusing on yourself. So I'll just say, here are some signs that you might be trying to be controlling of other people. And I guess y'all let me know. Oops, am I changing filters? How did I do that? How did I change that filter? That's weird. Huh. Okay, there you go. Somehow changed the filter on the live. Some of these are things that I've already shared before, but y'all let me know if there's anything else that comes to mind. You might try to control people if you are trying to be very loving and kind, to try to endear people to like you, to want to have you around, to choose you, instead of being your full self. Your full self can naturally be loving and kind and generous. But if you are dimming your light, if you're not showing up fully in your personality, if you're not saying the things that you would normally say because you're trying to get someone to connect to you, that is a form of manipulation. So that's different than, sometimes there's certain settings that you have to put on a filter that you might feel like you need to code switch, that it might be more professional than informal. That's not what I mean. I mean, there's someone that you're wanting to build a personal relationship with, and you're putting on a face, you're putting on a facade. You are dimming certain parts of yourself to try to paint the rosy image of what you think they would want versus being fully you. And you deserve a right, one, to be your full self, and they deserve the right to see your full self so that they can actually get to know you, right? And for you to not feel like as if you can't be everything that you are. And everyone can have the freedom of choice. um, I already talked about holding people emotionally ransom. So if someone does something that you don't like, if you choose to teach them a lesson by not talking to them, isolating them, withdrawing your love and affection, making them hurt, not really engaging with them, that is a way of trying to control people. That is not fair. Again, there's a difference between when I get really upset with someone, I'm so emotionally overwhelmed and so much in my head that that I need to take a break, that I need to step away because I may say something that don't want to say. But when you're doing extended periods of time, not talking to someone to try to get them to feel the hurt that you felt, instead of communicating, I felt hurt, then that's an issue. Now, whenever I say things like that, or whenever I watch other people who say things like that, and there's like commentary about it, there's always someone in the crowd that says, well, what if this is a person that I've already shared what I needed and what I want and how I feel, and they continue to hurt me? They continue to be disrespectful. They continue to ignore what I ask. They keep making excuses. Well, then you need to check to see if this is someone that you need to be connected to. When I first started teaching love addiction, and even my first version of like some of like my lessons and stuff, one of the things I used to say all the time is, when you struggle with love addiction and or love avoidance, either one, but especially love addiction, what happens is you take what are the really good and healthy communication skills that you should do, communicate, offer space, look at your side of the street, apologize when necessary. Don't put all of your emotions on somebody else. If there's something that you can take onto yourself and be in charge of your own triggers and stuff, all that's so healthy. But if you're doing that with people who are unavailable towards you, with people who either don't like you, who are tolerating you, people who are flaky, people who are unfaithful, people who are not self accountable, people who are narcissistic, people who just aren't able to show up for you. You're taking all these really great communication skills, and you think, if I just keep communicating to this person who has all these signs that they cannot, do not, don't want to show up for me in the way that I want to, then what's the point of, like, I keep trying to do this? Maybe you are in an emotionally unavailable relationship. Maybe you are connected to people who are neglectful and don't really have your best interest on your side. And maybe instead of you taking that information and going back and fighting with them and telling them, I read this book, I watched this live, I listened to this podcast, and this is what I hear is going on, because you've already had this conversation up 10 times, maybe it's time for you to see what the reality is in front of you, see how this person is showing up, and decide, can I live in this forever? Better question. Not can I, should I, do I deserve to? Because if you grow up in trauma, which normalizes that type of behavior, which makes you stay in those types of relationships as long as you have, the truth is you could. I can't tell you how many times someone has posed that type of question or something similar, or I said it to myself, seeing the bad behavior of people that I was connected to and being like, you know what, can I deal with this long term? And the answer is yes, because I had a background of emotional neglect. I had a background of people ignoring my needs. I had a background of me living in deprivation and going without. So having someone play in my face or emotionally be unavailable was familiar to me. It was comfortable to me. That doesn't mean it was right. It doesn't mean it was healthy. It doesn't mean it's what I needed or what I deserved, but I was used to it. So if you are connected to people who you continue to show up and communicate, and there's no change, or they shame you for it, or they punish you for it, or they use it against you, or they make half-assed like apologies and nothing changes, or it changed, there's like a breadcrumb change. A lot of times what happens, y'all, is we get into relationships, and this is base level standard, right? We get into relationships that are base level, or we think that this is base level. This is base level expectations. But we connect to people who are actually treating us right here. This is the honeymoon level. They're right here, right? So after the honeymoon, you're in your insecure attachment, you're in your love addiction, love avoidance. So you don't recognize, you're still like the honeymoon and like trying to romanticize all these red flags. So you don't see that this is actually what's going on. Or you're like, oh, this is where it is, but I can change them, or love will conquer all, or I don't need all that, or nobody's perfect, or I come with my own baggage too. Whatever it is that you say to dismiss the fact that this is where you're starting off. This is where it is. You start to get wind that I don't like this. I don't like that this is where I am. And because this is the best of what it's going to be, the longer you're in a relationship, it actually starts to go down, right? Because it happens in a lot of relationships. The longer you're with someone, you get comfortable. And if you're dealing with someone who already was unavailable and not really attached, it ain't going to get better, honey. If this is where they come in at to get you, they are not going to go, oh, you know what? You are so amazing and beautiful and talented, whatever. I'm going to give you all this because you deserve it. You do deserve it. You've always deserved all this, but you got with someone who brought you in here. Okay? So they bring you in here. Now you've been in a relationship a while, you're here, and it ain't right. So when they start to work on things that you've been bringing up to them, they're right here. So they bring it up here, and you're like, oh, great. There's change happening. Oh, okay. This is what, girl, all they did was just still bring you to below base level standard. You're still getting cheated. You're still not getting what you deserve. Okay? So this is my rant for those of you who are in relationships that are already underserving you, to realize that that's what's happening. And the breadcrumbing, going you from -10 to -8, is not improvement, because it shouldn't have been in the negatives in the first place. Okay? A few more examples of trying to control people: giving ultimatums. So giving them a predetermined amount of time to change. But if it's fake. So I just hope to have this whole thing about, not allowing people who are not available to you to continue to just waste your time and waste your energy and waste your soul and all that other stuff. I believe that. But sometimes we will give ultimatums and say, you know what, I deserve so much more. And if this isn't better by X amount of time, then I'm out. And you'll say that, but then you're not serious about it. Or like I just said, they'll go from -10 to -8. If someone is already in the negative energy, if this is where they are, I think that you need to understand that you deserve someone whose baseline is up here. They are already emotionally accountable. They're already healthy. They already have their own community that they are connected to. They got a therapist. Like, they do things that they're actively working on themselves and bettering themselves without your pressuring, without your nagging, without your threats. They want to be a good person, a good partner, a good father, a good whoever, a good friend to you because of their own personal integrity. Nothing to do with you being on their shoulder. Because as soon as you let down, first of all, you're already in the negative. So they're going to take you from -8 to -7, and you're going to think it's a big deal, but it's not. And also, like, that's too tiring for you to be on their back all the time just to continue to get emotional and mental and sexual and financial scraps. Okay? The last attempt to control, and this is controversial. When I first talked about this topic was actually one of my first podcast episodes when I relaunched Black Girls Heal like 5 years ago. Like, the title is actually like, you can't control them. So if you want to hear how I talked about this topic there, you can scroll all the way down and listen to that podcast episode. But I'll put here surveilling emails, phones, and DMs. Now, I know it's controversial because I know some people are very firmly team, I'm going to go through that phone. I'm going to go through that phone and I'm going to watch everything. And I don't care how it makes me look. And there are some people who are like, if I have to go through your stuff, that means that I can't trust you and it's time for me to go. I am team, if you're doing that to get evidence, to go back to somebody to try to convince them to change, I think we're having the same conversation about you are in a place that you don't deserve. If there is someone, say you do go through somebody's phone, emails, DMs, and everything because you're surveilling them, and you find something you don't want, you have everything you already need. You already know what's up. So giving yourself more time to have a conversation, to get fake apologies, to get this person biding time, to allow you to get more emotionally trauma bonded to this person, I think it's not fair to you. I'll just go ahead and say it. And, there may be some, who knows? I don't know everything. There may be some situations where it's a misunderstanding. That might exist. But if you ask me, how many times I've seen in my experience and with the women that I've served, that is an actual misunderstanding versus bullshit, maybe there's somebody else you need to talk to who has other experiences. You need to know two things. You need to know that you are beautiful, amazing, and worthy, and you need to truly love yourself. Not just be able to make a list of all the really great things about yourself and see on this list, but I need you to be able, when you look in the mirror, for your eyes to get soft with tears, for your heart to get warm, for you to get all ooey gooey in the same way that you get ooey gooey when you see the love of your life. I need you to just become a melting puddle when you look at yourself in the mirror and when you think about how beautiful and how amazing and worthy you are. That's the type of love I need you to get to. And getting to that level of love, you get to a place where you don't play about you. You know how we would say, I don't play about, like, my cousin, I don't play about my sister, I don't play about him, I don't play about her, I don't play about my mama. You get to a place where you don't play about you. So when people are offering you behaviors and things that are outside of what makes you feel cherished and loved and nurtured and adored, you will naturally adjust. Okay? You don't need to do all the controlling because I already know what I want and what I deserve. And so if you're not coming correct, then this ain't the right place. It ain't the right place for you. It ain't the right place for me. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay. So that is the live that I have for us today, y'all. If you would like to learn more, I have a free masterclass called the How to, hold on, what's the name of it? Because I renamed it. Let me see what the new name of it is. It's my free one. How to break the cycle and stop attracting and obsessing about situationships to get the relationships you want this year. And in there, you're going to learn the 4 ways to pick better partners as love addicts. So you can register by going to blackgirlsheal.org/masterclass, and you can pick a time to watch it that works best for you. It's about 65 minutes long, so great for your lunch break. Make sure you come ready to take notes. I did have someone who emailed and said that they had a hard time, that it didn't work on their end. So I'm going to check to see if it doesn't work for certain browsers. But on our end, we can see when people register, and if they're able to watch it. So anyone who registers, if there's like any error, like within the next 48 hours, I should say 24, but I have to go mom right now. Yeah, within the next day, if we can see that there are people who register who tried to watch that couldn't, we'll email you. So don't worry. So just register if that's something that's sounds good for you. And of course, if you're listening and watching this later on, then you can watch it now. But yeah, blackgirlsheal.org/masterclass. So that's it, y'all. I'm sending you all so much love. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will see you in our next live. Bye.